What's up, guys? So today we had the pleasure of getting to have Alyssa, or better known as A-Rock, on our podcast. Alyssa has a story about how she went from having nothing at a 9-to-5 job to where she was able to turn around and start working and building up a 6-figure-a-month business.
Yeah, so just listen in a couple things to really focus on. Listen to when we're talking about the compound effect. It's not just a mindset thing. It's something that you can actually implement. So listen to that and how this helped her go from no job to a 6-figure-a-month company. What's up, Gold Nugget listeners? I got Alyssa here, also known as A-Rock, my co-host Austin Wilder. What's up, Austin?
Hey, buddy. I'm good. We are nearing the holiday season. A-Rock, I appreciate you taking the time to come hop on our podcast today.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Well, Alyssa, let's go ahead and start with some of your biggest wins. Can you tell us just ever, no time frame, just what are some things you want to brag about yourself? I just want the listeners to kind of hear how high level you are. Like, what if you had to put yourself up on a pedestal? This is the time.
Well, it's always hard to put yourself up on a pedestal, but I guess my biggest wins for this year have been I've been a real estate investor since 2007. I had to take a break when I moved from Minnesota to California, and I had to actually go get a job because I spent all of my savings on trying to get into this market out here, and I really didn't know the nuances of this market. So it was quite a shift for me. So big win here is converting a person who's working a job to a 6-figure wholesaling business in a year. I've developed a team. I have a team of 10 people now. I have branched out in multiple different ways. Another big win is joining our Investor Academy, the mastermind that we're in. That has catapulted my success, like I can't even tell you, 100 times maybe. We're also looking into doing bigger things in 2022. So I feel like it's going to be an even bigger year than this year. And that's a huge win for me. So
that's so awesome. So
yeah.
you said something I caught. I really want to hone in on this. So you said you had to get a job because you spent all your savings, but you went from that to building a company to 6 figures. So yeah. That's a pretty big deal. So that kind of goes straight into our next little topic, is from going back to like spending all your money and having to get a job. Like what was that one gold nugget where you said, I'm going to keep pushing through? Because I feel like a lot of people deal with that. Like if you had to just boil it down to that one thing, like what was it?
Mental toughness. Really being disciplined about keeping my mental space in check. There was a lot of lows throughout that time. It wasn't just like a start from the bottom and shoot my way up. There was a lot of days where I cried.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I can do this, but keeping myself mentally sharp, keeping the education going, making sure that I'm putting good things in my ears instead of bad things, staying away from negative conversations and people talking negatively about what's going on in the market, how people can't succeed. Just really, really mental discipline is huge. That's what really saved me, I think.
So when you say discipline, like what, I guess how did you stay disciplined? Like, what did you do? Like, what kept you going? Like when you say mental toughness, like what drove you through all that? Because I feel like a lot of people hear that, like stay disciplined, but like how?
Yeah, I totally get it. So I've always kind of been one of those people that's always gone after what I wanted. I've never really been somebody who's sat on the sidelines. If I hear a good idea and I can figure out a way to implement it, I'm like, let's go, and get punched in the face along the way. But really going from somebody who was successful and having a lot of success to having a really hard time and actually having to go back and get a job. I mean, that's soul crushing for an entrepreneur. And honestly, I just kept looking in the mirror. I'm like, I've done this before. I can do it again. I've learned everything that I've done to date, and so I can learn this and do this. There's no reason why I can't. I just have to get over my own crap in my own mind that I'm telling myself to really just take it and run with it. Everything is a step-by-step process. I can stick to the steps. So just honing in on being, really keyed in on taking action even when I don't want to, it has been really the key to keeping myself disciplined. I guess that would be the best way I would describe discipline, honestly, is just, you know, even though you don't want to, even though you feel like you can't, if you can just do one thing toward your outcome or toward your goal, pick one thing to work on. Working on that just changes your whole mentality and the way you think about things, because now you're taking action and you're actually doing something instead of sitting there wallowing in your own self-pity.
Mm-hmm.
So
I heard this really good quote one time. It's very short but very true. It's that action mitigates fear. Like whenever you're in a fearful position when you're like, oh my gosh, I've got so much to do, like so much kind of against me. I'm really against the grain on stuff. Like it almost puts you in a position where like, I'm so scared of everything that's happening. I don't want to do anything.
mm-hmm.
And so you don't. And then it just makes it worse and it compounds worse and worse. And so in order to mitigate that, you at least you just do one thing. Doing one thing will make you feel like, oh, this is doable. I can just, let's just slowly chip away at it.
Yeah.
Action mitigates fear.
For sure. That's a good quote. Mental toughness, man. It's mental toughness. It's just kicking yourself in the butt when you don't want to.
So the one thing, so if I was listening, the way I would turn this into a gold nugget is just what I got out of it is focus. And the one thing, because there's a lot of shiny objects out there, and I can get distracted where I can lay out 100 things on my plate I want to do. But like Alyssa said, like if you're got all this stuff on your plate, just pick that one thing and do it until you get good at it. And I'm gonna go off on another stretch. That I'm gonna go into a little bit of the science part of it because the brain physically can't multitask, and people in this world, they don't want generalists. They don't want somebody who's good at everything. They want somebody who is a specialist at that one thing. And there's money to be made everywhere. But like Alyssa said, just that one thing, just do it and just take action. And I was getting okay, but going back to the science part of it, I wanted to add this is shortening the time frame on your goals too. I'm reading the book called The 12-Week Year right now, and it's so awesome. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it because it's awesome for goal setting and really staying focused. But it goes into the science of the brain. Like whenever you achieve, kind of like what Austin just said, like you do one thing, you achieve it and you feel good about yourself. The brain actually produces whatever the chemical is that makes you feel good. Like when you
dopamine.
Dopamine. So like whenever you start achieving these little small goals that you set for yourself within 12 weeks at a time, don't focus on the next 10 years. Just set a little goal to achieve in 12 weeks. Like, where do you want to be in 12 weeks? Do you want to, it doesn't matter. For us, it's real estate. So it doesn't matter if you want to do like Alyssa, where she's doing 6 figures a month in her business. Don't focus on that. Just focus on like the 6 figures a month. That's the outcome. Focus on the input for you during those 12 weeks. It might just be making 1,000 phone calls. I mean, like that's the one thing, like focus on 1,000 phone calls. Don't worry about the skill set or anything else. Just kind of me going off on that little tangent. Like, would you say that's basically what you did to build up?
Yeah, definitely. I also utilized my resources. So I was at a point where I was able to jump into a mastermind. I jumped into a mastermind that really helped. And I followed the recipe. It's basically what it is. They say success leaves clues. So, you look at somebody who's successful doing what you want to do, and you look at what they do on a daily basis, and then you take those steps and implement them into your life. So, you don't have to worry about being good at phone calls. If you make 1,000 phone calls, you're going to get better, right? You're going to deal with different circumstances throughout all those 1,000 phone calls.
Yeah.
And, you'll improve and it'll get easier over time. The first 10 phone calls are nerve wracking and your guts are twisted and you're sweating and your hands are clammy and clammy and whatever.
Yeah. So
that's what I did. One thing at a time.
One thing at a time. That's awesome. That's the gold nugget. Just one thing. Now, just kind of going back 5 years ago, 10 years, wherever you went up, where you felt like, hey, I'm actually catching grip and I'm catching traction and I'm starting to see success. Like before you felt like you were getting successful, where you were just constantly in the grind, where it's like, what am I doing, to now, like, what's the one thing you did then and you're still doing now? Like, what's the one thing that, like, was it like your morning routine or your journaling? Like, what's the one thing that you did in the worst part of your career that you're still doing now that you would say is the most important?
I listen to a lot of books on self-development, a lot of different books, a lot of, woo-woo stuff and a lot of business stuff, a lot of, just mental clarity. The book that really changed my vision for life and how I really see things is called The Untethered Soul. That is a phenomenal book if you're looking for, a path just in general, because it walks you through all your old crap and your old programming and makes you really think about what it is that you're reacting to. So that was one. I listened to that one, and I listened to that one on repeat. And then I also listened to You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. Just whatever self-development books I could listen to get my mind right. That was the key, really. That's what I started with.
Yeah. So the reason I asked that is because I wanted the listener, somebody who doesn't have the resources yet, what's the one thing they can do, that education, constantly educating yourself.
Go to the library and get a book.
Yeah. That's where it's, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I've heard so many times that someone that's just starting out will ask someone at a really high level, hey, I've got $1,000, just tell me where to put it, Bitcoin, real estate, all these different things. And they're like, no, don't do that. That's probably the worst thing you could do. Go buy a book, go listen to some podcasts, do exactly what we're doing, follow people that are already doing it, because otherwise it's just throwing money away.
Well, and get really clear about who you are and how you function as a human, honestly, because for example, what Nick Perry is doing is not what I'm going to do. I follow some of his tactics, but I don't subscribe to his entire business model because, he's not me. He's a totally different person than me. He doesn't operate the same way I do. I have a business partner, and between me and my business partner now, we're two totally separate people. I am touchy-feely leader. I want to make sure that my staff feels like they're a part of the team. I want to make sure that we have good culture, because it invigorates people, especially with our team and virtually. It invigorates them to want to be a part of it. And they're not just another number that's cold calling leads for us, whereas he is just hard, micromanage, ready to go. He want to make sure that everybody's doing their job, and he asks a lot of questions, and, he's just very straightforward, and it's a totally different personality dynamic. So, following people are good to a point if it gets you the mechanics of how to do it, but you really have to put your own feel onto it. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, here's a fun little question I like to ask. I think so. What would you define? How would you define success, or how would you define that? And then how would you define the difference between successful people versus unsuccessful people?
Oh man, that's a deep subject.
It's a loaded question.
Question for sure, but the simple answer for me, I think, is just, are you happy getting up in the morning? Are you excited to get up in the morning? It doesn't matter whether you make a ton of money. It doesn't matter whether you are broke. If you're still excited to get up in the morning and you're excited to do what you're doing, I would call that a success.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah. No, I know I kind of put that on you. It's tough to answer that question. Fine. It's tough to answer that question without putting some thought into it. I'm looking at 2 pages of notes I wrote out on that question. So, but I wanted to talk about the book. The reason I asked that is because I wanted to talk about the compound effect. Have you ever read that book?
Yeah, I have.
It uses the analogy of if I gave you, I don't know, $9 million today, or doubled a penny for 30 days, which one would you take? Most people take the $9 million up front, but if you double a penny every single day, the exact number is $10,737,418.20. I did that formula right before this because I wanted to know what the exact number was, because I've always heard that, but I never knew the exact number. So if you double a penny every single day for 30 days, that's the number it comes up with. But if you'll let me ramble real quick, I have a point. So if you start off with 1 penny and you double it every single day, at day 11, you only have $20. Wouldn't you? But by day 30, it turns to 10 million. And if you keep doubling it by day 15, you only have $327. You're halfway there and you only have $327.
Yeah, that's nuts.
You keep doubling it by day 20, you have $10,000, $485.76. You are at day 20 and you're still not even touching a million.
Yeah.
You get to day 24, you're at $167,772. Like you're barely at six figures. You get to day 27, you're just now hitting 1.3 million. And within those last 3 days, you reach 10 million.
Wow.
So the reason I wanted to go on that little tangent about the compound effect is I wanted to correlate that to the daily habits. One of the things you just said was like educating yourself, reading books. It's the exact same thing with this analogy. Like whatever the time frame is from day 1 to day 24, you're not going to see that $1 million. Whatever that time frame is for 5 years of educating yourself, you may not see the quote unquote, $10 million for 5 years. It's going to take that compound effect of every single day, the daily habits compounding on each other. And
Absolutely.
so the reason I wanted to hone in on this is what are some of the daily habits that, like you said, to that person who doesn't have the resources right now, they don't know where to begin. Like, what are the daily habits they need to be implementing right now to see that compound effect, to get them where within those last, quote unquote, 3 days, whether that's 5 years down the road, 10, whatever it is for that person, like what are the daily habits they can implement right now?
Oh, well, you can implement the mindset path, right? You can take it and each day you can journal. You can write down things that you were thinking, things that you're thinking about, what kind of actions you're taking for the day as kind of a tracker so you can see your progress. As far as like my morning routine, I basically wake up, I wake up somewhere around 6 o'clock, sometimes it's before, sometimes it's after, it just depends. But it's usually within 10 minutes of 6 o'clock. And I do that naturally now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That's so nice. That's a superpower in my opinion.
Oh man, I don't know. You just do it for so long. It just becomes a habit really. But yeah, so now I wake up around 6, and the first thing I do is roll out of bed and get my stuff together and go to the gym, because I know that physical health is important to me, and if I don't work out in the morning, comes from learning myself. If I don't work out in the morning, it doesn't get done because I get distracted with all the different things that come at me throughout the day, and by the end of the day, I'm so exhausted from running companies and living life and doing things that I just don't have the extra energy to go to the gym. So if I want to get my gym workout accomplished, I have to do it first thing in the morning. And if I don't do it first thing in the morning, like if I just sit and drink coffee and sit on my phone or whatever I do, that's not my morning routine, then I usually don't go either.
Yeah.
It starts my day out a little bit differently, so just having some kind of a routine that is good for you and it fits into your life is definitely good. I mean, when I was working a job, you get up earlier, if you have to start at 8 o'clock in the morning, you get up, 5:30 to go work out or do whatever. Having a mindfulness practice too is important. Just sitting and thinking, meditation, if you can bring yourself to do it, is always a good thing. Or reading something is always good. I journal just to keep, kind of tabs on what my thought process is. And I kind of sit and set up my day that way. So, journaling and setting up my intentions for the day is always helpful. Reflecting on what happened the day before is always helpful for me in the morning too. So that way I'm set and good to go. And then after that, I'll have a cup of coffee or something and I'll start kind of filtering into my day with what I need to get accomplished for that day. So I'll look at things that are most important and start working on those. I'll check in with my staff because typically by the time I'm done with my morning stuff, they're starting to come online. And they all say good morning to me and, happy whatever day it is, with little icons and emojis and stuff. And they're all happy and just really excited to be at work, even though some of them have really crappy jobs. They still love coming in, and so we conversate a little bit in the morning and, I take my dog for a walk and just that kind of stuff. And then I jump into what I really need to get done in the meat and potatoes. And on Mondays and Fridays, I have group calls that I host. So I do those on Mondays and Fridays as well, but that's kind of like my routine. And it really helps me to set up the rest of my day in a routine manner or even in a structured manner because I'm really bad with chaos and letting myself get pulled in way too many directions. So trying to
Yeah.
control the chaos and keeping focused on what's going on is really important also.
Yeah. So what I'm getting is just how just if I had to turn that into a golden nugget, is just how intentional you are about your day, like waking up, having a routine that works for you. There's millions of ways to do a routine, but it's routine that works for you. So like if somebody had to implement that right now, is like develop a morning routine. And
Develop a routine for like the entire day, really. I mean, just so you can kind of have some thought around what you're doing.
Yeah. I love it because there's a book, I forget what it was, what it was, but it talks about like so many people, like they'll look up somebody like you who's doing 6-figure wholesaling company, and they want to know your business plan. They want to know the knowledge. Yes, the knowledge is good, but I genuinely believe if you laid out that your exact business model, they wouldn't implement it if they didn't have a routine, or if they didn't spend time journaling, or if they didn't spend time in self-reflection or planning their day. They'd look at it, try it, and be like, oh crap, this is hard, and quit. And so like, that's why these routines and these morning journaling, self-reflecting is so important. I love it.
It's really getting clear on knowing yourself and what you as a human require out of your day, and just require out of anything, really. I mean, it goes back to the discipline conversation, it's really about knowing yourself and knowing what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your limitations are, what engages you, what makes you procrastinate. It's all about that. It's not just about the steps you take to get there, but you find ways to make yourself do things when you know what it is that you're really good at. And the stuff that you're not good at, you can hire out at some point.
Yeah.
The best.
So if you're out there trying to make $1 million company, don't just quit what you're doing and try to develop that routine and then go chase that $1 million company.
Yep.
It's
about the little things that you do every day. Little things make up the big things.
And here's another thing I heard in that 12-week year is people hold their standards way too high. Like they'll plan out their day to the T, and if they don't complete 100% of it, they beat themselves up. But in the 12-week year, it said, he did all these studies. He said 85%. If you can just get 85% done routinely, you'll reach your goal. So just to add a number to it, and as long as you're planning out your day and always doing what you said, Alyssa, like what's my most important things to do today? As long as you're planning out your day and doing that, that's the way to do it. And it kind of made me feel a little better when I read the 85%. Like if you can just consistently reach that 85%, you'll reach your goal.
Yeah, definitely, it's true. Yeah, I can't tell you how many days where I've kind of sat here and like I didn't start my day very intentionally, and I just sat here and I'm like, oh my God, what am I supposed to work on next? What am I doing?
Yeah.
So we all have the struggles, no matter what kind of status of life you're in right now. Everybody's got struggles and trying to maintain what they need to do and stay focused. And so it's not like it's just something that happens and then all of a sudden you're rich or whatever. It takes building over time for sure. It's a roller coaster, man. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah. So kind of taking a step back on when I asked you the question, what success is, I wrote down a definition. This is actually from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you haven't read that book, that's another good book. But
I've read it.
Oh yeah. But he defines success as a result of small, seemingly insignificant moment to moment choices. The reason he defines it like that is because he talks about how success is not just this one huge heroic act. And so many people are chasing that one, like, what's the gold nugget? What's the one gold nugget that's going to make me rich? But that's not how it works. Like, it's not that one like huge moment where it's like, oh, I figured it out. The only time that's true is if you win the lottery. But then the problem with that is, as Robert Kiyosaki says, is winning the lottery isn't going to make you rich, because if you have a poor mindset, you're still going to go broke. Because you don't know how to invest it. You're going to spend it on all your cars and houses. And so that's still why it's like Alyssa said, like you need to be educating yourself so that you can know how to handle, because whenever you get to this level of success, you already built your foundation at the bottom.
Absolutely.
And that's why that's right here. I'm kind of looking at my notes, but like everything we just talked about is why it's important to fall in love with the process. Like so many people are seeking that one big success, and that's what they're falling in love with. And then they face reality, they face the process, and they get down on themselves because they're like, wait, this is harder. So like if they would spend less time falling in love with the goal and more time falling in love with the process, they would it just naturally become successful. We had a member on our guest speaker a couple episodes ago, and we asked him like, how does he set goals? And he said, I don't know. He goes, I just focus on it one day at a time. And he was serious. He was like, I've never really set goals. He goes, I just always try to improve my day. And he's got $700 million in real estate, like in rentals. And right now he's building like 150 unit. And so that just goes to show you like how important it is to fall in love with the process and just focus on it day to day.
So I read this book called Code of the Extraordinary Mind.
Yeah.
That is a phenomenal book too. But one of the things that I'm pretty sure it was in that book, but one of the things that they mentioned was trying to get 1% better every day. 1% better out of everything that you do. So like if you're doing push-ups, for example, try to do one more push-up than you did yesterday. So you have to do do better by one, basically. And that, over time, obviously provides significant results.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can just be better than I was yesterday, that's definitely, I would say that's success in my mind too. It's wanting to wake up every day and be 1% better than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
It's not about making huge leaps and bounds because nobody does that. And you get burnt out if you try.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I love it. There's a book out there called The 1% Rule. And they actually told a story of during the Olympics. I don't remember if it was the German. I don't remember what country it was.
The French, the bicycle team.
Yeah, the bicycle team.
Yeah.
And
I heard that story.
Yeah, and it talks about how like they were the worst team, and the coach was like, let's just focus on 1% at a time. So they made their tires 1% better. They made their gear 1% better. They made their new and they focused on that, and they ended up winning an insane amount of gold medals. And that was the only thing they changed. Was just focusing like 1% at a time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And as far as like goals go, since we're talking about setting goals, I have a high level thing that I would like to accomplish, like I pick a high level task that I'd like to get done. Very specifically, like I want to increase our leads coming in by 100, or I want to, increase whatever, you pick a small target. And then I kind of work on it. Well, we work on it quarterly. I work on it daily. I work on it weekly. Just making those little things that are going to get myself one step further. I found that if I set goals and I'm like gung ho about it at the beginning of the year, especially now that we're coming up to New Year's and all that stuff, and everybody's like New Year's resolutions, I typically don't set those. I'm always the one that's been in the gym the whole year and not the one going into the gym on the 1st and leaving by February 1st, I don't like to set really big, hairy, audacious goals, whatever they say. Is that what they say? Big, hairy, audacious goals?
Yeah, the BHAG.
I like to think about them and I like to write them down, and it's kind of like a dream world, but honestly, I try and set things that are more attainable for myself, because then I don't beat myself up in the long run when I don't accomplish them. So the 12-week year is really awesome because it's looking at your life in quarters, right? So quarters of the year. That's basically all it is. It's saying, okay, I'm going to do 90 days of this to try and get to my end result. And then every 90 days have a new end result. So just incremental improvements.
Yeah. Speaking of the 12-week year and goal setting, what are some, do you have any goals you're currently chasing over the next phase or next year? What's your biggest goal you're chasing right now?
So we're doing, so I've been working a lot with hedge funds lately. And so my goal is to get every single market director properties throughout the year, which is a big goal. It's not that easy. It's not as easy as
Yeah.
everybody makes it out to be. But they
Yeah.
all have to buy, they all have to buy like 30 to 40 properties a month,
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
So if I can give them 10% of what they need, I'm doing pretty good. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
I'm hoping by the end of this year, my goal is going to be in every market that they're in, bringing them deals to fill up their pipeline, and in turn, it's going to be filling up my bank account.
Yeah.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah. That's
Um,
awesome.
and I have some health goals too. I've been really good about health, but there's still always improvements to be made. So I'm actually gonna increase my healthy eating and be really more conscious about that. So that's something that's new one for me, because normally I'm just like, I just want to feel good, look good. But I'm getting older now, so I have to be more conscious about my health. And so I'm taking steps to do that, eating a little more healthy, being more conscious about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And honestly, I want to, in 3 years, I want my business to be making 5 million a year. I mean, that was my 3-year thing when I went through the intensive a couple of days ago that I went through our goal setting and planning or whatever. I want my company to be generating 5 mil in 3 years.
You're going to knock it out the park.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I have no doubt you're going to get there.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well,
more infrastructure for sure.
Yeah. That's so awesome. Maybe we can do
more mental clarity.
Yeah. Maybe we can do a follow-up podcast in 3 years.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, hey, if I just kind of looking at the clock, I got a couple more topics I want to hit on before we
Sure.
but just kind of moving on. I love these topics. I could talk for 2 or 3 hours about this stuff. I always hate cutting people off, because if I didn't have a clock, I would, like I said, I'd ramble and ramble. But kind of moving on. What are some of your biggest failures, and like how did you overcome them?
Oh, man, that's a loaded topic.
Yeah.
I would say, geez, I have to say business related, honestly, having to go back to a job was definitely a failure. And I hired a project manager when I didn't know what I was doing at one point, and I think it was 2016. And I took on a bunch of projects thinking that this particular person could manage the projects well based on his track record. And, he was well qualified. I've seen all of his work done. He's done all this stuff. I trusted him a little too deeply.
Yeah.
And personal life kind of took over for the guy, and it ended up going very, very badly. I lost a ton of money, lost some property. It was a big downturn. So that was really hard for me, given the years before that, how much success I had had. So to have a loss like that, it really was a boost, like a boot to the butt, really just a kick to the face.
Yeah.
And so it put me pretty low for a long time, actually. I was, pretty emotionally low for maybe a year. I was just trying to get myself back out of the hole, financially and mentally and everything, because we're our own worst critic and we're hardest on ourselves. So that's really where I started the self-development route, because I felt like I needed some clarity around just how to feel better and how to do things and get back into the swing of things. And then, I ended up shortly after that, ended up getting a divorce and moving out of where I lived and away from all my family. And, and then once I had sold off the property that I had left, I took the cash, came out here and started trying to invest out here. And then all of a sudden, I didn't make any money out here because real estate's not the same out here. They say real estate's the same in every market. That's definitely not true.
Yeah.
Definitely not true.
Yeah.
So I got beat up really bad there too. And really the steps to overcome that are just, I had a really good support system. First of all, I mean, that is huge. I relied heavily on my support system. My family, my guy that I'm with now, he was, he came into my life during that phase, and it was really hard, but he was very, very supportive. Just having that backup, keeping me going, keeping me motivated, telling me that I can still do it, and telling myself I can do this. I've done it before. I know what I'm doing, and just really keeping up on the positive side of things and trying to put positive things into my brain and listen to positive things and listen to inspiring things, and reaching out when I needed help was really kind of the key. So I would say the support system was really how I got through it.
When you say smart system, are you talking about like from the book Vivid?
Support system.
Oh, I thought you said smart, like smart, the SMA. You know how they have the SMART goals?
Mhm.
Oh,
No,
support
system, just having a support system, and if you don't have one, going out and finding one.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can ask Austin how much he's basically the opposite of me. I think that's why we work so well together. But I mean, I probably talk to him 3 or 4 times a day where I'm just venting about what happened. But then by the end of the phone call, we're talking about how to get through it. And shoot, if I didn't have that, I don't think I'd be so high visionary type mind, because I just need somebody.
Welcome.
I'm just being vulnerable here. Like, I mean, shoot,
Really?
Yeah, like I've put my hours in talking to Austin about what's hard, and by the end of the phone call, we're like, okay, this is what we got to do to get to the next step.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, you need that support. You can't do it on your own. I mean, if you can, then you need to come on the podcast and let us ask you how.
Yeah, no kidding. No, I can't do it on my own though. I definitely needed a lot of support, and just somebody that knows you, to really help you through it, and just understand, hey, you're just feeling bad. You don't need to feel bad. Let's stop feeling bad and think about how we can be proactive and get things in the right direction,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Yeah. I mean, that just goes to show how important it is to, those daily journals on just reflecting, like learning yourself, that personal growth. Because like I said earlier, I could lay out your entire business model. You're still gonna have to put out fires, and you're gonna face these challenging times. And these are the moments that you're gonna wish that you had that foundation of personal growth to keep pushing forward. To me, that's where, if I had to define the difference between a successful and an unsuccessful person, is everything we just talked about. Like, the successful people are not more talented or not more dedicated. They just have more support. They have more foundation in their personal growth. I was telling my buddy the other day, I was like, you're not more skilled than me. I just have more experience in knowing myself. That's why I'm doing better in this area. Because I guarantee you, if you put us side by side and you had the same amount of time spent in this area, I think you'd be better than me. And so, like, it's just like, that's the difference. Is like, I think so many people put successful people up on a pedestal, and they're like, oh, they're better than me, but they don't realize, like what you just said, Alyssa, you still dealt with that hardship where it was like, oh crap, what am I going to do? And so, like, the people deal with that when they have no money. They get millions of dollars and they still deal with that. So what makes them think that it's going to change when they get $1 million? Because, as I love Steve Harvey, he was like, mo money, mo problems. However he says it, he says, he's like, but I'd rather deal with these problems I have now. But
it's hard being rich and hard being broke. I'd rather be hard being rich.
Hard being rich.
Their song, it was like, I got 1 million problems and a B ain't one of them. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, well, shoot, that's all the topics I really wanted to hit. Alyssa, what is there anything on you can feel like if that person was sitting across the table from you, like, what would you tell them to keep going? Or like, what's one gold nugget you'd tell them to implement that maybe I missed or didn't bring up?
Each person is situation specific, right? It depends on what you're going through. But if I had to pick a gold nugget, it's just really get to know yourself and then work with what you got, find resources to show you how to work best as who you are.
Mm-hmm. Really get to know yourself. Yeah. I have a day. Speaking of that, I have this daily habits, like on my iPhone, it's like daily habits, and it goes off every morning at like 5 o'clock, and I try to review it. But I read this and I actually journal on this topic. So here's like a gold nugget you can implement, but I always read this and it says, there's a blessing on the other side of this burden. So I try to take a moment. I'm like, okay, what is my current burden? And then I try to journal on that. I just journal on what's my current burden. And then I go, how can I get to the other side of this? And then I journal like, okay, how can I get to the other side of this? And then I have to review and ask myself, are my daily habits and routines aligned in a way to get me there? Like, what is my routine and daily habits do I need to implement? Like, I can show you, like, every morning I'm reading this, and I'd say my best days have been, they were probably right after something bad happened, and I journaled on that. And the following days always happened after journaling on that topic. And that's my goal. Like, that's something tangible you can go implement right now.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, there's always somebody that's been through what you've been through. There's always going to be somebody that's been through what you've been through, because most people don't come up with new circumstances. You know, I've had plenty of life circumstances. I call them my mini lifetimes, right? I've had many lifetimes throughout my life. Every about 10 years is a whole new lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, I've had my up years, my down years, my beat on years, my whatever. I mean, you name it, it's been there. But there's always somebody that's been through what you've been through. And if you can just be vulnerable enough to have those conversations with people, you know, you never know what you're going to get out of them. And most of the time people love it when you're vulnerable, because then they can be vulnerable back and get a lot more information out of them that way.
Yeah.
So take your ego out of it and it's good.
Yeah. There's some good stuff.
I mean, Aaron, we really appreciate you taking the time today and spread the knowledge, because, you know, you're definitely a wealth of experience from what you've gotten to go through, and, you know, just share that with people that could probably really use it. So we really appreciate you taking the time today.
Thanks.
if you want, you can tell anybody that's listening, you know, where they can learn a little bit more about you, or where to find you, how to reach out to you, if they, you know, have something they may be able to help you out with in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm on all social channels. If you're looking for me on Instagram, I'm buildyourbeautifulself.com. Well, Build Your Beautiful Self is my handle. And I actually blog at buildyourbeautifulself.com. And then you can email me or call me. I would say probably hit me up on social first. And if you really want to get a hold of me, you can reach out and I'll give you my number.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.